The name Ted Bundy struck fear into the hearts of many. He was a notorious serial killer who terrorized the United States in the 1970s. His charm and good looks were deceiving, for behind his charismatic facade lay a cold-blooded killer. The true events that took place during his reign of terror were nothing short of horrifying. It all began in 1974, when young women started disappearing in Seattle, Washington. No one suspected that these disappearances were linked, until the body of a young woman was found in a forest. She had been brutally strangled and beaten. The police were baffled, and the community was in a state of panic. One of the victims was a young college student named Lisa. She was a bright and ambitious young woman, with dreams of becoming a lawyer. She had been walking home from the library one night when she was approached by a charming young man. He introduced himself as Ted, and they struck up a conversation. Lisa was immediately drawn to his charisma and intelligence. They went on a few dates. Little did Lisa know, she was falling into the trap of a serial killer. Ted Bundy was a master manipulator, and he knew exactly how to lure his victims in. He would often pretend to be injured or in need of help, and when his victims let their guard down, he would strike. Lisa was Ted Bundy's first victim. She had been walking home from a late study session when Ted approached her. He pretended to have a sprained ankle and asked for her help. Lisa, being the kind-hearted person she was, offered to take him to the hospital. But instead, Ted led her to his car and drove her to a secluded area. He then proceeded to brutally assault and murder her. The police were no closer to catching the killer, and the community was living in fear. No one knew who would be the next victim of this heinous murderer. But Ted Bundy was far from finished. He continued his killing spree, targeting young women who resembled his ex-girlfriend, who had broken his heart and left him for another man. The police were under immense pressure to catch the killer, and they started to piece together the evidence. They discovered that all the victims had been approached by a charming young man before their disappearances. They also found a pattern in the killings. All the victims had been strangled and beaten, and their bodies were found in remote areas. Ted Bundy, however, was always one step ahead of the police. He was a master of disguise and would often change his appearance to avoid detection. He also moved from state to state, making it difficult for the police to track him down. But his luck ran out when he was pulled over by a police officer for a routine traffic violation. The officer noticed that the car matched the description of the one seen at the crime scenes. He also noticed that the car's front seat was missing, and there were suspicious items in the back. The officer arrested Ted Bundy, and the police finally had their prime suspect. Ted Bundy's trial made history in America. He represented himself in court and used his charm and intelligence to manipulate the jury. But the evidence against him was overwhelming, and he was found guilty of multiple counts of murder. As he awaited his execution on death row, Ted Bundy finally confessed to his crimes. He revealed the gruesome details of how he lured his victims and how he disposed of their bodies. He showed no remorse for his actions and even boasted about his killings. A chilling quote from Ted himself: "I'm the most cold-hearted son of a bitch you'll ever meet." And with that, the true story of Ted Bundy comes to a close. But the true horror of Ted Bundy's actions was not just in the number of lives he took, but in the way he manipulated and deceived his victims. He was a master of disguise and could charm his way into anyone's trust. The community was left shaken and scarred by the events that took place, and the memory of Ted Bundy's reign of terror still haunts them to this day.